Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. I'm here to tell you about Boll & Branch sheets. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. They're made from the rarest organic cotton and designed to get even softer over time. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee plus 15% off your first order with code Odyssey. So head to BOLLandbranch.com today. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
I'm Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com.
And I'm Michael Swain of Fog.net.
This is a replay of WIBW show The Drive.
Here's this week's episode on the 24/7 Sports Podcast Network.
Good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by Briggs Auto Group. I am Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, and the man across the studio from me is Michael Swain of Fog.net. What an interesting day it was, Michael, in college football. I got left out of the college football playoff, and I think everyone's upset.
Well, Fitz, you made up for it by dressing like a Pop-Tart, so I think you're halfway there.
I know. I am delicious. Do you know that they're going to have an edible mascot?
Interesting. I like the sound of that.
They're not allowing me to attend.
Oh.
You can interact with us on social media at Facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13, and of course, answer our weekly poll question and make your game predictions on our Twitter page. And remember, if you ever miss an episode of The Drive, you can listen to an audio-only version that will appear each Monday morning in the form of a podcast at GoPowerCat.com and Fog.net. And we start things off, as we always do, with the 2-minute drill. The first segment of the 2-minute drill is sponsored by Vanderbilt's Your Work Boot Center.
All right, Fitz, as I mentioned, K-State is headed to the Pop-Tarts Bowl and will take on NC State. What's your initial take on K-State's destination, which is Orlando, and its opponent?
Orlando. Hey, look, this is a great opportunity for Kansas State. And it's interesting to me because, you know, Will Howard's moved on, so Avery Johnson will be the quarterback. Fans are fired up about that. Really, do we have to run the highlights of the Snowmageddon? Because it was not fun. And it's going to be, Orlando's going to be much warmer than the last football game, we hope. But this is a good matchup. I'm fascinated by seeing what NC State's about. And I think it's going to be a really good game. And the issue here with this bowl game is the expense in getting to Florida this time of year is absolutely outrageous. So a lot of fans will be driving if they plan on attending or spending a lot of money on airfare. It's crazy, but this is a fun bowl for K-State, a bowl that they've never been to, and I think that was a big factor. And honestly, we've been hearing for weeks that the winner of the K-State-KU game would get this bid, and it held up through time. And they couldn't go wrong with either one of them. But I like the fact that after facing Alabama last year in the Sugar Bowl, and the possibility that Notre Dame might have ended up in this game, but as we went to tape here, I still don't know where they're playing, to get an NC State team against the ACC that, honestly, Michael, I think as we saw from the College Football Playoff Committee, it just wasn't very good this year. I wasn't impressed by any team I saw out of the ACC, and I have to admit, I never watched NC State, so I don't know. But it'll be a fun opportunity to see what some of these young guys on this K-State team can do for Chris Kleiman. I know a lot of them will be playing. It's kind of going to be the beginning of the next season instead of the end of the previous season, as most bowl games are. It's an opportunity for guys to really show their stuff before they move into the off season and probably move into significant roles on the field for the Wildcats in 2024. But a cool opportunity for K-State. I'm not a big Pop-Tarts fan. I really never was, but I think I'll have one just because they're sponsoring the bowl. I think they have grape.
Grape?
I don't know.
What?
It's
no,
purple.
Strawberry. That's the flavor you got to go with. That's the flavor.
I don't know. It looks like Oregon State and Notre Dame. It's a Sun Bowl. Notre Dame's going to El Paso. Huh, that's interesting. Hey, Michael, KU, on the other hand, is headed down to Phoenix and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, which has been named 17 different things over the 17 previous seasons. It'll take on UNLV. Is this a good outcome for Kansas?
Fitz, you can look at this a whole lot of different ways. And I think from my perspective, it's a good outcome that Kansas is in another bowl game. The actual bowl game, the timing of it, probably not great for fans, Fitz. Let's be honest here, right? December 26th is a pretty big challenge. You're looking at fans deciding, okay, are we going to fly down the day of the game and maybe stay a day or two after? Okay, that could work. But you're kind of getting your cake before having the dinner, right? You want to have some experience building up before the bowl game. But This is going to be a big challenge here, Fitz, because like you said with going to Florida, right, going to Arizona this time of year too is not cheap from Kansas City. So this is another very expensive endeavor for KU fans. And look, let's be honest here, this matchup is not necessarily one that going into the season or going into the weekend you thought was going to happen, or that I think gets a lot of people excited. UNLV has a great offense. This will be a fun football game. But in terms of looking at the two brands they're going to face off on December 26th, it's not necessarily one that's going to get you really excited, right? It's not like if KU's playing Nebraska or Wisconsin or heck, any Big Ten team really. It's a little bit different. So overall, right, I think it's a huge positive. Kansas gets to play another bowl game, that they're going to get these players the opportunity to go and be a part of a bowl game that feeds into the Fiesta Bowl, right? This is the bowl prep for this group and for this bowl committee. So KU is going to be treated very well, and the players are going to have a great time doing this. And that's huge for them because this has been a tough season. It's been a lot of adversity, and the guys have fought through it and deserve this great opportunity. But again, if you're looking at this from a fan perspective, it is not the easiest or maybe the best outcome overall. So I'm fascinated to see, Fitz, what the crowd looks like. It's played at a baseball stadium too. That's a fun fact for you. I'll be really fascinated to see what this KU crowd looks like, because a lot of KU fans went to Memphis last year, Fitz. It was great to see all the KU fans on Beale Street, but this year it might be a little bit different. The timing and the financial aspect are going to be pretty tough, but for the Kansas football program, it's a great opportunity.
I'm watching these highlights. How fast is Jason Bean? He just ran away from everyone in those highlights. Like, see ya. It's unbelievable. Yeah, is that normally a Pac-12 bowl?
It's a Big Ten bowl.
Big Ten bowl.
The Big Ten is terrible.
Yeah, UNLV might have won the Big Ten West. The college, Michael, this is yours.
Yeah, the college football playoff is set with Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama making the playoff, most notably Florida State and Georgia not. Did Florida State get screwed, Fitz?
I think they did, but I understand exactly what the committee did. This was the worst case scenario for the committee. Never before have we had 3 undefeated Power 5 champions and then 2 really good 1-loss champions in Alabama and Texas. And they made the decision that without their starting quarterback, who's injured, Florida State was the worst of those 5 teams, even though they were winless. And I gotta say, the ACC is absolute trash. I watched that championship game and I felt sorry for anyone that was forced to watch it. I turned to the Big Ten game because it was more exciting. So yeah, I think they got it right in terms of the best teams, but I don't like the precedent of leaving out a Power 5 unbeaten team. Luckily, the next series of events here with the 12-team playoffs, that won't happen. The conference champions will get the byes, but it's just fascinating to me, Michael. This is the conclusion they came to, and but I want to point this out. ACC was part of the coalition that blocked the expansion of the playoff until next year. We should have had it this year, and they ended up absolutely damaging their own product because they didn't want the playoff expanded to 12 a year early. It's crazy.
This comes down to, right, the big argument that if you watch the college football selection show, you heard it said a million times. What are they picking? Is it the most deserving teams or is it the best teams?
Right.
If they're picking the best teams, then yeah, it makes sense to leave Florida State out. I'd also argue Georgia is one of the best 4 teams in the country. They had a very bad time loss, but you put Georgia against any other team in the country, I think they're winning that game more times than not, Alabama included. But I think also, Fitz, right, it's hard to not say this should also be the most deserving teams, right? We just played a full season and Florida State did not lose, and they dominated at some portions and they lost their quarterback at an unfortunate time. That shouldn't impact their ability to play for a national title. I think it just comes down to the argument, which is it's a tough one to pick.
I have some more thoughts on this, and I'll save them for the end of the show because I think there was a whole nother factor at play here, one that I'm not comfortable with. Now, a quick look at your poll question results. The poll questions are brought to you by Midland Exteriors. Love the home you live in. Call today for a free estimate.
All right, Fitz, last week's question was, who wins the Big 12 title game? The fans are smart, Fitz. 33% picked Oklahoma State. I think they were wishing with their heart.
Yeah.
67% picked with their brain, and they picked Texas.
Yeah, Texas could have won by a lot more than they did. Here's this week's question. Should the college football playoff have included Florida State? Yes or no? Those are your answers. There's no C. You just got those two. Vote on our Twitter page at The Drive 13.
All right, that will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, but we'll be right back with more on KU and K-State on The Drive.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to The Drive, fueled by BriggsAuto.com.
Welcome back as we continue our weekly 2-minute drill. This segment of the 2-minute drill is sponsored by Copeland Insurance Agency, part of your community for more than 60 years.
All right, Fitz, K-State notched 2 wins, but both were in overtime this past week. Let's get a status check, Fitz. Are you concerned about how K-State's playing right now on the hardwood?
First, let me say that Jerome Tang is now 8-0 in overtime games. If they get you to overtime, you're in trouble. But these opponents were Oral Roberts, which has been a good program over the last few years, and they were a good team, and North Alabama, honestly, a university I didn't know existed until a year or two ago, and they were playing without their best player. And they led basically the entire game, and K-State tied it up in the final seconds to get it to overtime, built a lead, and then hung on to win by 1. It was an awful performance. It was not good. This K-State team has got to start carving out its identity. And a big problem is Tyler Perry. He's just so inconsistent. He's not very good in the first half. He wasn't very good for this entire game. He was 1 of 6 from 3-point range. The one he hit was in the final seconds to tie the game. So this K-State team is just kind of limping by, getting along. They're really missing some players. And they've got Villanova coming in on Tuesday night, who I honestly thought would blow K-State off the court, and maybe they still will, but they lost 2 games last week, and probably the better teams than what K-State took to overtime. But this is a team that just hasn't found itself yet, hasn't got that cohesiveness you need to have once you enter conference play. And having Villanova in this Big East Challenge is a real tough get for K-State. This is a really tough matchup, a long athletic team, the exact same type of teams that K-State has lost to in USC and Miami. So I don't know where this team's headed. They desperately need Naquan Tomlin back on the court. There's some hang-ups with that apparently, which we're covering at Go PowerCat, and we'll see if it all shakes out. But Tuesday night against Villanova, it's going to be a rocking house. People have been looking forward to this game. It's Wildcats against the Wildcats. And the Purple Wildcats better play a whole lot better than they have been if they want to win the game, because Villanova is pretty darn good.
Yeah, Fitz, the bye games are the ones where you want to see the team come out and show its identity and dominate. It doesn't have to be for the full 40 minutes, but for a good portion of it. I think the fact that K-State has really struggled to do that in 2 games is really concerning.
They're not polished, and their energy levels doesn't seem to spike until it's desperation time, and then they play well. It's just crazy. They just need to get it going. Well, KU basketball beat number 4 UConn on Friday night in a terrific game. How huge was that win for KU, and what did you learn about the Jayhawks?
I think we continue to see that this KU team is pretty tough. You look at the way that UConn plays, right, and they have a guy in Tristan Newton who just went off. One of the best performances I've seen from a guard in non-conference play now in Fieldhouse in a long time. And KU just kind of keeps battling back. And I looked to this point in the second half where UConn made its run. They made their move. They took the lead in the game. And I think we've seen some of the poor Bill Self teams, right? I think back maybe that 2019 team. They tend to struggle in that moment. And this team responded with a huge run. I look at the play of someone like Johnny Furphy making a huge 3 in the corner as a freshman. The confidence that he is playing with, I think, speaks volumes about just the team overall, where they all have a huge self-belief in each other. And look, Allen Fieldhouse was on fire, Fitz, on Friday night. That was the best in-game atmosphere I've seen in my years covering Kansas. It was incredible. I really hope that people are able to get a feel for that one day. But I think this KU team continues to show that guys like Hunter Dickinson, KJ Adams, and Kevin McCullough are going to keep showing up game in and game out. Hunter Dickinson, great in the first half, is the reason that Kansas was able to get a 7 to 8 point lead and just kind of hover around that for most of the first half. KJ Adams making 5 free throws down the stretch after he entered the game shooting under 50% for the season, I believe. And he comes up in the clutch with the mental fortitude, with everything going on in his personal life, right, Fitz, to be able to step up in that moment and do it. That is resiliency. And then you've got Kevin McCullough, who makes some huge threes down the stretch. He's not been a great three-point shooter in his career, but the confidence that he has this year and the confidence that he's playing with is at a whole different level. So I think you're seeing this team showcase the character that it has. It's a group that is still learning how to play together, right? I think Dwan Harris, KJ Adams are really figuring it out. KU's bench has been terrible. They're trying to work through it as well. But the thing that is really shown up in the last week, going back to Maui, is the mental fortitude that this team has and their ability to fight through tough moments and bounce back and come out on the other end with a win.
Yeah, shout out to KJ Adams. You know, life knocks you on your butt once in a while, and that's what he's going through with the passing of his mom. And to show up and play at that level, much respect. Much respect. And now we step out of bounds. And Out of Bounds brought to you by Darris Corner Market. We love local, and we're local for you.
All right, Fitz, I have an interesting question for you. Dan Hurley and Bill Self said they want to see more college basketball teams scheduling elite home and homes. How much do you think that would impact the sport broadly if you saw much more of that in December or even in November?
Well, I think it's really important for the Big 12. Because if the Big 12 really is going to play up their basketball entity, and there's been a lot of talk about adding UConn and Villanova and Gonzaga to the basketball conference, then I think a lot of that marquee matchups will take place within the conference. But if you're asking networks to pay a premium for basketball, which is the next move for the Big 12, to say, hey, look, we know you've claimed that 10% of the contracts for TV are for basketball and the other 90s for football, but that's not the reality. In reality, it's more like 30 to 40% are basketball, and you've been getting a discount. So you got to make sure you put a product out there that's worth paying for. I'd love to see it. I love that K-State's playing Villanova, and I think doing it with these conference matchups, everyone should have every conference, once the Pac-12 is gone, all 4 conferences should have this going on with each other. There should be a Big 12 team playing the Big East and the SEC and ACC. It just should happen. And what's the other one? Oh, the Big Ten. They're so forgettable. But I'd love it. I'd love it, and I love that Jerome Tang is up to schedule at K-State. I
think it's huge too, Fitz, right? Playing it on college campuses,
yeah,
right? That is what is so special about college sports and college basketball. It's not playing in an NBA arena or some weird gym in the Bahamas. Like, it is playing it on college campuses where the players can get that experience and the fans can equally get that experience of elite basketball.
Are you trying to say you're not a fan of basketball played in a ballroom?
Not really.
That's a weird stand. I don't understand it. Now let's hear from our fans. Our fan question is sponsored by Medlark Retirement Awaits in Manhattan, where you can live your way every day.
Our fan question this week is, will Will Howard be the next starting quarterback at USC? This comes from Jordan in Lawrence.
This is fascinating. Will Howard, as a grad student, could go into the portal after the season, and he is. And people are like, why is he leaving K-State? Well, number one, and this is a kind of a weird comparison because the levels of football are different, but Alex Smith was the starter when Patrick Mahomes was the rookie, and then everyone knew, Alex, you got to make room. And that's the way everyone in Manhattan in the football complex feels about Avery Johnson. But also, the NIL allows these guys to get paid money, a lot of money. Matt Rule said $1.5 to $2 million of NIL is what it costs to get a quality quarterback for one season. It's craziness. USC, Washington, Oregon, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Miami, they've all reached out to Will Howard and plan on making offers. It's incredible. So USC, I don't know, but it's going to be someplace that's going to pay him extremely well and give him that one more season to put on his resume for the NFL. Crazy.
Well, remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. We will look at our predictions when we return here on The Drive.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
Welcome back to The Drive, fueled by BriggsAuto.com.
And it's time to head down the home stretch of this week's show. Now let's take a look at our predictions. Predictions are brought to you by Kites, meeting your friends at Kites since 1954. Remember to make your weekly predictions on our Twitter page at The Drive 13. There are last week's results. Fans, what are you doing? You're giving us the lead here. It's kind of nice. Here's this week's picks. And we're going to start with, it's all basketball, of course. KU versus Missouri. KU's a 10.5-point favorite. So did the Jayhawks beat the Tigers by 11 or more?
Yes, I think so, Fitz.
I think so too. I would pick KU to win by 20.
Yeah. I agree there. I don't know what Vegas is thinking. But next, K-State hosts Villanova, the game you talked about, Fitz. We've got this one as a pick 'em.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Villanova.
Yeah, there's not really a line on this. And what did you use, Ken Palm?
Yeah.
And I'm going to take Villanova too. I know Nova lost a couple games, but this is a bad matchup for K-State. Our last game of the week is another K-State game. They go to LSU over the weekend This one is also a pick'em, and I think K-State does win this game.
See, I think LSU at home is going to be able to scratch this one out.
Ooh, I like that, Tigers. I get what you're doing there. I like it a lot. Again, make your picks on our Twitter page at @TheDrive13 if Michael remembers to post them. Now it's time for our On the Clock segment. On the Clock, sponsored by Carpet One, by Local for a strong local community. And we start off with Michael Swain of Fog.net.
Lance Leipold's looking for a new offensive coordinator or tight ends coach. We'll see how it plays out. Andy Kotelnicki, KU's offensive mastermind, is headed to Penn State. Penn State decided to pay a $700,000 buyout, and they will pay Kotelnicki $1.6 million this year, with that salary going all the way up to $2 million at the end of his contract in year 4. KU fought hard to keep Kotelnicki, and he's someone that's been with Lance Leipold for over a decade. I think you can look at this a couple ways, Fitz. On the one hand, KU's losing a coordinator. That is a big deal, and having to fill that hole is going to take some time, and Lance Leipold will find the best candidate. On the other, it's a big difference, Fitz. Penn State, the program, is looking for an offensive coordinator, and they went to Lawrence, Kansas to try and poach KU's, and they paid a hefty price in doing so. I think people around KU are probably disappointed that Kotelnicki decided to take the job, but it's one of those where you look at Penn State's standing in college football, it's a pretty high place.
Yeah, it is. I'm impressed because usually I walk away from a lot of those and go, why are they paying that much? He's worth it. He really is worth it. Let's go back to the selections for the playoff. And I'm just going to propose this, that if there was a team out there that had Alabama's resume, but it wasn't Alabama and it wasn't in the SEC, everything was the same except for those two factors. It was a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team or a Big 12 team. This change of moving an unbeaten Florida State out of the playoff to make room for the other team would never have happened. This was a clear SEC bias. And this is an SEC this season that did not perform well in Power 5 non-conference games conference-wide. They just didn't. And yet their strength of schedule is high because they're playing SEC teams. It's a built-in bias. It's crazy. The new playoff will fix it, but it still stinks if you're Florida State. And that's it for this week's edition of The Drive. We will see you next week right here and all week on social media.
Sunday, the AFC Championship, presented by Intuit TurboTax, is on CBS. The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs go on the road once again to face top seed Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, with a trip to Super Bowl 58 on the line.
That's a touchdown!
We'll get you set for kickoff at 1 Eastern with a special 2-hour edition of the NFL Today, the AFC Championship, Sunday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.